Good afternoon and welcome to the COVID-19 Learning Community, hosted by the COVID-19 Command Center and powered by the Joint Information Center. Some housekeeping. By default, all participants will be muted to minimize distraction. For Q&A, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. When called on, please unmute your microphone to ask your question and re-mute your microphone when not speaking to minimize background noise. When speaking, please announce yourself and speak slowly. You can also enter your questions or comments into the chat panel. Please hold all questions and comments until after the presentation portion of the event. Today's meeting objectives is to review the current state of the SF COVID-19 epidemic and local indicators of hospital capacity, disease situation, and disease control and current testing efforts. We'll also go over steps for safe voting, and also to highlight community-based testing bright spots. Here's the agenda for today, and I'll hand it off to Jafria Morris, the Equity Officer of the COVID Command Center. Jafria, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for coming to another week to find out some really incredible information that we're working on as a city and for you all to share with the community. Today is very exciting. We're about 12, 11 days, I think, away from election. And I know our community, especially vulnerable communities of color, are very concerned about our mailboxes and how to make sure our voices is heard during a pandemic. So we have two really great speakers from election, as well as our information and guidance here to kind of help talk about that. And I think we'll also be having a few information about Day of the Dead today. If not, then we'll have that for next week. And I also want to give you a preface for next week is that if you haven't read the Mission Local in the Southeast, Southwest, between District 10, 9, and 11, the flea market on Alamany will be our new site. We will be moving the Soma site to really to provide testing justice in the Southeast quarter, Southwest corridors in San Francisco. So super excited. We'll have more information on that next week. And I also want to let you guys know that daylight savings time happens on November 1st. So there will be some changes around the time when we hold pop-up testing, and I'll go over that when we look at the calendar. But very excited. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for continuing to share this information to your participants and stakeholders so that this information gets out to the community that we know we need to serve. So next, I wanted to move on. Election is big times. I don't know if you all watched the debate yesterday, but Michael from Elections, if you can present and kind of tell people not to be scared. San Francisco Election Department has it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jafria, and thank you for inviting me to present today about the voting options that will be available to all San Francisco voters. And we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of their options and what they could do to make sure that they stay safe and healthy while exercising their right to vote this November. And special shout out to my former community branch colleagues, Monica and Jackie. Let's see, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. Technical issues here. All right, can everyone see my screen? Yes, all right, perfect. All right, so once again, in this presentation, we are going to go over everyone's voting options for the November 3rd, 2020 general election. So before we begin, several new elections laws were passed this year to ensure that every Californian can choose a safe method to participate in the November 3rd election. These new laws call for the mailing of ballots to all registered voters, access to the accessible vote by mail system to all voters, as well as safe in-person voting opportunities. So now we're going to go over your voting options for this November 3rd election, voting by mail or in person. So as I just mentioned, all registered voters in California, they will receive a vote by mail ballot for the November 3rd election. So voters, they should have received their ballot packets in early October. And in those packets, there is an instructional insert to make sure that you fill out your ballot correctly, your official ballot, your a postage paid return envelope, as well as an I voted sticker. So the one way to make sure that your ballot was delivered to the right address was to make sure that your registration record was up to date. And you can check your registration record at voterstatus.swis.ca.gov. If you do need to update your residential or mailing address, give us a call at the number on the screen there, 415-554-4375, or send an email to our voter support team at sfvote@sfgov.org so that we can mail a ballot to you to your new address if needed. And now I'm going to go over the accessible vote by mail system. So the accessible vote by mail system, it allows voters to download and mark a screen readable ballot online. This system was previously reserved for voters who have disabilities or they are in the military and live overseas. But because of COVID-19, this system has now been opened up to all California voters. So because this system was previously reserved for voters with disabilities, it's compatible with many personal assistive devices such as head pointers and sip puffs. And just to be clear, for security reasons, the system does not store or transmit votes over the internet. It allows you to download an online version of the ballot, mark it, and then print it out for it to be returned to the department. So in case you do want to use the system to access your ballot this November, you can do so by going to sfelections.org/access from now all the way through 8 p.m. on election day. So once you go to that URL, you just have to enter your house number, your zip code, and your date of birth in order to access your ballot. And so now we're going to go over how to return your ballot. So once you have completed your ballot, you want to put it in the official postage paid return envelope. And then on the back of the envelope, you want to make sure that you complete and sign the information on the bottom there. And you want to seal it. And then afterwards, you can drop it off to any outgoing mailbox, your polling place on election day, or also the City Hall Voting Center. And in case you do lose or damage your envelope, don't worry, just give us a call if you need a new one. We can issue you a replacement, or we could also provide instructions on how you could return your ballot using 2 standard letter-sized envelopes. So one important thing to note when you are returning your ballot by mail is to make sure that you return on time. All return envelopes must be postmarked by Election Day, November 3rd. And if you are going to be returning your ballot in person on Election Day, you can drop it off at any ballot drop-off station or polling place by 8 p.m. of Election Day. And for a list of drop-off station locations and polling place addresses and hours, go to sfelections.org/myvotinglocation. And I just mentioned ballot drop-off station locations. So starting next week, October 31st, we are opening additional ballot drop-off stations in each of the districts of San Francisco. Most of the locations will be SFPL branch locations. As you can see there, D1 through D1, D2, D4, D5, and then D7 through D11. All of those drop-off locations will be at San Francisco Public Library branches. In District 3, the ballot drop-off location will be in Chinatown, Portsmouth Square. And in District 6, the Chase Center will serve as a ballot drop-off station. And there may be special guests on Election Day at that location. So the ballot drop-off station hours. So we do open next Saturday, October 31st, and on that Saturday and Sunday, we will be open from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. Then on Monday, November 2nd, we will be open from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. And on Election Day, November 3rd, the drop-off station will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. So here are some important vote by
Wait,
mail
I'm
tips.
sorry. You said
Yes.
it'd be open on election day from 7 a.m. until when?
8 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be the same hours as our voting center and then also all the polling places. Every voting location and drop-off station will be open from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m.
And you cannot drop any ballots off anywhere after 8 p.m. election day, correct?
That's correct, yes.
But if they're postmarked, if you put it in the mailbox, then you can. Okay.
As long as they're postmarked by election day, then it will be counted
Count it.
once
Thank you.
we've received it. Yeah, of course. So you definitely want to remember to sign your signature on the back of the envelope. When we do review your ballot, we check the signature to make sure that it compares to the one that is on your voter record. So remember to sign it because your envelope must be signed for your vote to be counted. And then secondly, you want to return your ballot as early as possible because it must be postmarked by November 3rd. If you are going to be using a blue USPS mailbox or a business mail drop, something like that, you want to check the mail pickup times to make sure that the last pickup of the day has not already occurred before you have dropped it in. Because if the last pickup time has already occurred, then it would be postmarked late and then it therefore would not count. So once you have returned your ballot, there are several ways for you to track it to make sure that it has been returned to the department and counted. One way is to go to the voter portal, and you could visit sfelections.org/voter portal to check your online profile and then see the status of your ballot. Another tool that is offered by the California Secretary of State is the Where's My Ballot tool. You can go to where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov and sign up for notifications to get notified when your ballot has been received and counted by the department by text, email, or voicemail. And you can also request a replacement ballot from us in case you have lost it or you've damaged it or it has not arrived. You can request a new one by going to the voter portal at sfelections.org/voter portal, or you could email us or give us a call and we will issue you a replacement. So to recap, voters will receive a ballot in the mail several weeks before Election Day, and you should have received one already. And to vote by mail, you simply just have to mark your ballot, place it in the postage paid return envelope, sign it, and put it in the mailbox or bring it to a ballot drop-off location. And you can track the status of your ballot by contacting us or visiting sfelections.org/voter portal. And you can sign up for notifications when your ballot is received and counted at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. All right, so now we're going to go over your in-person voting options in San Francisco at our voting center and our polling places. So 29 days before Election Day, we opened the City Hall Voting Center. And for health and safety reasons, this year, instead of being inside the City Hall, our voting center is outdoors. It's on 99 Grove Street in front of the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium. So anyone can go there to get in-person voting services, including using accessible voting equipment. They could also request a replacement ballot, register to vote, or drop off their vote by mail ballot directly with department personnel. And because it is open 29 days before Election Day, it's a great opportunity to vote early. So from October 5th through November 2nd, we will be open from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. And then on the weekends of October 24th and 25th, and then next weekend, October 31st through November 1st, we will be open from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. And on Election Day, November 3rd, we will be open from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. And on Election Day, November 3rd, the department will provide 588 polling places throughout the city. If you do decide to vote at your neighborhood polling place, be sure to go to your assigned polling place to make sure you receive the correct ballot type. You could use the voting locations and wait times tool at sfelections.org/myvotinglocation to confirm your assigned polling place address. You can also find your confirmed polling place, your assigned polling place address by checking the back of your voter information pamphlet. And now I'm going to go over same-day voter registration. So the voter registration deadline was this past Monday, October 19th. But if you missed the voter registration deadline, don't worry. You could still register to vote conditionally and cast a provisional ballot at the voting center or your polling place. However, if you vote at a polling place that is different from the one you are assigned, you may vote provisionally, but the ballot may not contain all the contests you're eligible to vote in. So remember to visit sfelections.org/myvotinglocation to confirm your assigned polling place address. And now I'm going to go over restoring your vote. So many people in California, they do not know that even if you have a previous criminal conviction, it does not mean that you can't vote in the election. So persons with criminal convictions can register and vote in the following situations. If they're in county jail serving a misdemeanor sentence, a felony jail sentence, or as condition of probation or awaiting trial, they're on probation, on mandatory supervision, on post-release community supervision, on federal supervised release, and subject to a juvenile wardship adjudication. If you know anyone who are in these situations, they can register and vote in this upcoming election. However, persons with criminal convictions cannot register and vote if they are in these following situations: imprisoned in state or federal prison, serving a state prison felony sentence in the county jail or other correctional facility, in county jail awaiting transfer to a state or federal prison for a felony conviction, in county jail for a parole violation, or on parole with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So if you know someone who are in these situations, you are not eligible to register and vote in the upcoming election. However, if you are in the situations listed here, you can register and vote. So in compliance of local, state, and federal health guidelines, our in-person voting locations will be we'll be enacting guidelines to make sure that everyone who does vote in person at a voting center or a polling place can do so in a safe and healthy manner. So all of our voting facilities, they will offer face coverings and hand sanitizers and gloves to all voters, and they will also be set up to facilitate social distancing. And all of our poll workers and election workers, they will be incorporating cleaning and sanitation tasks into their regular responsibilities, and they will be regularly cleaning any high-touch items and all of our voting equipment on a regular schedule. And we're also going to put up multilingual notices outside and inside all of our polling places to remind voters to follow vital health guidelines and to protect the community. So now I'm going to go over informational resources to learn about candidates and measures on the ballot. So for this election, you should have received a voter information guide offered by the state and the voter information pamphlet offered by the department that provides information about local and state ballot measures as well as candidates you will be voting on. We also do offer these guides online. So if you have not received one in the mail or you would just like to view them online, you can go to voterguide.sfelections.org. And these are the contests that will be on the November 3rd election ballot. President and Vice President of the United States Representative Districts 12 and 14, California State Senator District 11, State Assembly Member Districts 17 and 19, BART Board of Directors Districts 7 and 9, San Francisco Board of Education, 4 seats of the Community College Board, and the odd numbered districts will be voting on the board supervisors to represent the districts, as well as state and local ballot measures. All right, and so these are the local ballot measures that will be on the ballot. There are 13 local ballot measures that will be up on the ballot this November. Let's see. Local measures A, B. So Jafria, how am I doing on time?
You're almost over.
Okay.
And I got 2 questions, I think.
Yeah, sure. Let's
so just show them. Yeah.
Do you want to maybe go Q&A?
Oh, perfect. We're here, right?
Yeah. 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 Let's go to Q&A.
So one of the Q&A, and I could answer this, but I'm not an official, is from Christine. Can you drop off a completed ballot for another person on election day?
Mm-hmm.
And I will go a step further. You can go earlier if they've completed, right? For an elderly person or who cannot physically drop it off. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's correct. So anyone in California can return a ballot for another voter. The only thing the person who's returning the ballot must do is to fill out a field that is on the flap of the envelope. I actually do have it pictured in the presentation. Let me pull that up. All right. So this box right here, if you are delivering the ballot on behalf of another person, you need to fill out this box here. You just have to provide your name, your relationship to the voter, and then also sign it just to confirm that you are delivering the ballot on behalf of another person.
Gotcha. And then another question, and this is more of a postal, is that from Kent is saying that any way to determine if any of the blue mailboxes is live mailboxes. There are a couple in my neighborhood that don't seem to have any pickups.
Yes, there is a USPS lookup tool. Let me find, I'm not sure I have the URL in front of me. Let's see, I think it's like USPS.lookup.
Well, while you're looking this up, I also want to just tell you all, I know Azuri asked the question, is that I believe the mailbox on Evans has the latest pickup date in the Bayview because that's a bigger site. And I know like the airport, those are the later pickup sites. Just to let you know, but on election day, you really should go in to any polling booth because every polling booth will have a box to drop it in, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you can go to any polling place to drop off your ballot.
And also, you should not, if you don't know the person, people will be driving around, I call them ringers, they have another name for them, that are picking up people's ballots, but not turning them in because, you know, they want y'all president to win. I'm putting them on you guys. And so you got to be very careful and inform people that just because it's a card does not mean that that's actually the person that should be picking up any ballots.
Thank you. Michael, can you also say, if people go to, can you go back to that slide? Because we have 1 minute left. But go to the slide where the 11 districts with the pickups and say how people will actually know that's official and what they'll be wearing and kind of, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So these are the 11 drop-off station locations. And all of our ballot drop-off locations, what's unique about them, or the sites in San Francisco, is that all of our ballot drop-off locations will have personnel on hand to receive those ballots. Our stations will be under a blue canopy tent that has our logo and emblem on it, and you'll also see the signature red box that you see at all of our polling places and our voting center. And our staff will have a red vest on to indicate that they are department personnel. So if you see any of those things, any of those indicators, then that's the sign that you are at an official department sanctioned ballot drop-off location.
Thank you, Michael. This was excellent. Even my second time was just as good as my first. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, of course. No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So can we unshare, Jack, now? Thank you. All right. And as we move to our next presentation, I want to move it over to Michael from NICOS Chinese Health.
Jafria, I'm so sorry. I think Dale has joined us as well.
Okay.
From ING, Dale Jenne. Dale, thanks so much for being here. I know you were available to answer some questions about COVID safety and thinking and voting. Is there anything you wanted to share? I think you had a slide and just wanted to make sure you were available for questions and the guidance that you developed.
Yeah, I just have a slide. We were requested to come up with some guidance from the Department of Elections for safer voting, and the guidance that we wrote is it's supplemental to the poll worker manual, and it's also for voters. And it really is basic. It's the, you know, social distance, face coverings, sanitizing and disinfecting, traffic markers on the floor to make sure that people aren't mingling and, you know, in one way and out a different way. And then the requesters for ballot delivery, which actually is for voters that are in the hospital or homebound. They can request a ballot delivery. I think it's a week before the election. If anybody has, I'm just mostly here to answer questions if anybody has any questions about safer voting.
I don't see any hands up.
Thank
or
you.
anything. Thanks, Dale. I'm so sorry I skipped you.
No worries.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to our community spotlight with Michael from NICOS Chinese Health Coalition. Let's go. Are you there, Mike? Okay, great. I've been working really hard with the API community, and I'm super excited to see this presentation and all the work. And so we're going back to community bright spots. And so I will be contacting you all, different ones that come to the community learning for you to present. I know next week I have Excelsior Strong that will do a presentation. So thank you so much, Michael. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready. Hopefully you could hear me okay. Oops, dropped my phone. Okay, wonderful. Please let me know. So my name is Michael. I'm the Director of Programs at NICOS Chinese Health Coalition. We are a nonprofit in San Francisco's Chinatown. You could see our organizational mission at the bottom is to enhance the health and well-being of San Francisco's Chinese community. This is our storefront. NICOS actually stands for the first letters of our 5 founding organizations that founded NICOS back in 1985. And today our membership has grown to more than 30 health and human service organizations. Just a little bit of a background, NICOS since 1989, one of our oldest projects, have been doing, serving as a community hub, convener of sorts for disaster preparedness in general. Been doing a lot of work on just, earthquake preparedness, more recently on extreme heat and air quality issues, and have a coordinated plan for how CBOs could work together to serve the community after. So I think it kind of makes sense that we extended that work to include a network on COVID prevention and testing as well. So these are our current COVID-19 network members. When our network started, it was really an extension of NICOS board of directors, which is often made up by the leaders of many of these organizations. And since then have expanded to include other members as well, such as city governmental partners and other interested community members. So the inaugural meeting was back in end of March, was towards the beginning of shelter in place, and now we meet every other week. There are several goals for the NICOS COVID-19 network. First is, as I mentioned, NICOS plays the role of a hub or a convener. So it's important for us as that hub to maintain at all times situational awareness, right? Of knowing what kind of services are available in San Francisco Chinatown in person versus virtual, in terms of primary health, behavioral health, essential services like feeding, as well as how our CBO partners in Chinatown, what are their capacities to meet future needs, such as surges. Another goal is to prevent and mitigate COVID-19 among some of the most vulnerable in Chinatown, and we've been focusing a lot on the SRO residents. And finally, also to increase access and utilization of testing among Chinese and the broader Asian community, both in Chinatown and citywide. And finally, also to advocate for greater equity in data collection, particularly having attention to racial, ethnic data in data collection and research studies on COVID-19. we have a particular focus on the need for disaggregated data, Asian data, by Asian subgroups so that we could have a better idea of how COVID-19 might be disproportionately impacting certain segments of the Asian community. So I'm going to go through in a little bit more detail some of those goals. So relating to SRO Response, we actually created a two-pronged community approach to addressing potential outbreaks in SROs. As you know, people living in SROs, there's obviously very little space, often no space for quarantine or isolation, and there's also often shared facilities like kitchens and bathrooms that could increase one's risk of COVID transmission. So we actually created this system that we drilled recently. At the end of August, we were alerted by our partner, Chinatown Community Development Center, that one of their SRO buildings had a positive case. So we had a plan in place, so we sprung into action. Within 12 hours of being alerted at about 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday night, by the next morning, around 11:30 a.m., our clinic partners, Chinese Hospital, NEMS, Chinatown Public Health Center, were ready to go. We're ready to receive the list of residents that were provided by the SRO Buildings Association. And because they already have a clinical relationship with many of these residents who are their patients, they would then have a better, easier job to engage them and to motivate them, hopefully, to get tested. And whoever isn't able to be contacted by the clinics, NICOS would then work with our community partners, the CBO partners such as Self-Help for the Elderly, Chinatown YMCA, to send bilingual staff to physically go into the SROs to do door knocking and to do in-person outreach in order to reach everyone in the building. So this, we found out actually later that the what we saw was a real life event was actually a false alarm, that the notification being sent to Chinatown CDC was actually in error from DPH's end. And so there was no actual case, but it was a good practice experience that showed us we did have a really efficient kind of plan to respond to potential SRO outbreaks. So we're currently working with DPH to finalize some of that workflow to get what we need in place so that we don't have those false alerts in the future. We have verification process. And we are continuing to work with our other partners as well to strengthen this partnership. Really quickly on access and utilization of testing, we've been doing a lot of work to try to get testing more available to some of the more vulnerable, especially immigrant communities. So NEMS and NICOS both received separately an American Heart Association grant to provide outreach and testing throughout San Francisco, and we're going to work together to identify potential areas that of need to do that together. Skipping ahead to the bottom, we've also recognized that not only do we need to make testing available, we need to make access and navigation to those testing more readily accessible. We realized from one of our coworkers who actually had to help her mother-in-law get tested recently because of exposure at work, that even for someone who is bilingual, navigating the complex healthcare system and based on your insurance where you should go get tested is extremely complex, not to mention for someone who is limited English speaking. So we actually developed this tool that I'll really quickly just highlight. This is actually an online tool. In a moment, I'll paste a link in the chat box. Based on what language you select, it would actually take you through a list of options. If folks select the option of not having any insurance or usual source of care, it provides them information of testing in Chinatown and surrounding areas that do not require health insurance. And so some of the SFDPH sites, as well as the city-run sites like Color Labs. And if folks do have insurance, they also take them through, based on their usual source of care, what is the protocol for getting tested if they're a NEMS member, if they're a Chinatown Public Health Center member, for example. And NICOS also offers live support through WeChat and telephone number in case these limited English monolingual speaking residents might need help, further help. The last one I'll talk about is about data. NICOS is also strongly advocating for greater access to data. So for example, back in July, we submitted an official data request to the C3 data request process for disaggregated racial ethnic data. We're also in the process of exploring several NIH grant collaborations with UCSF to increase, for example, Asian consumers in research review panels for COVID-related research studies. Also qualitative research on how Asian Americans feel about testing and vaccination. We're also leveraging our existing network members' testing data like NEMS, like Chinese Hospital, in order to better inform, are there certain underserved segments within the Asian population? Are there certain hotspots in terms of geography or age or whatnot? So that we could have better targeted outreach and interventions. This is the last one actually. Resource coordination. We're also serving as a clearinghouse of resources for our network members. Those are in the front line. So we've been leveraging a lot of PPEs, for example, through NICOS membership in other collaborations like SFOAD and some of these other groups to get over 350,000 pieces of PPEs to our organizations that are in the front line serving the Chinese and Asian community. So that's one of the other things that the network has been doing. I think I did keep it in 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there, see if folks have any questions. And at the same time, I'll also paste a link for our bilingual navigational tool in the chat box.
If anyone have questions, you can just feel free to unmute and ask questions. No need to put in a chat. Oh, is the navigation tool through SurveyMonkey?
It is. It's a interactive tool where based on how you respond to the assessment questions, it takes you to where you need to go in terms of the best testing options.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, because I think we're all, as professionals, very familiar with SurveyMonkey, and to know that it'll have that kind of different pathways is very interesting in the work that we do and maybe using this tool. So thank you. This is a great idea. Oh my God. So I don't think we have, I don't see, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. This is Alyssa. I work at Potrero Hill, and I'm wondering, does your collaborative, do they do any outreach that are specifically around other sites? I know we have a number of households who are Chinese speaking and they get very little support. So wondering kind of what that could look like.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Alyssa. Although most of our focus initially when we started was on Chinatown, we also recognize that just through anecdotal and data here and there that there are pockets of communities where there are Asian Americans who may be impacted greatly by COVID-19 as well. So we definitely are open to, and especially through some of our new grants that we secured to provide outreach, education, interventions to other communities. So please feel free to reach out to us. I'll put my email in the chat box and I'll be happy to either refer or connect you with one of our network members who might already have a presence there, or to brainstorm ways to bring some of these resources over to where the area where you serve.
Great, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else? Like an auction, going, gone. Thank you so much, Michael. And I don't know if the other Michael is here. Thank you so much, Michaels, for presenting. And we are done. I've given you all 4 minutes back to your live TL people. You don't have to rush off. You have 3 minutes for your next meeting. Thank you all. See you next week.
Take care, everyone.
And thank you for joining the COVID-19 Learning Center Learning Community. If you have any questions or needs, please contact equity-neighborhood@sfgov.org. Once again, thank you and have a wonderful weekend.